The story happens in a small village in Malawi back in 2001. The villagers are out in the fields, working under the sun, when suddenly, one man falls down, showing no movement. His son, Jeremiah, and brother, Triwell, rush towards him in panic. Soon after, the village mourns at his funeral, abiding by local customs. With his father, John, gone, Jeremiah feels the weight of looking after his family. Strong winds blow in the village, and amidst this, a young boy named William is busy fixing radios in the stillness of the night. However, Triwell, frustrated, takes away the radio from William, urging him to repair the leaking roof. Triwell expresses his annoyance as William hasn't repaired his radio, making him miss out on his favorite shows. After a tiring day, William finds a surprise on his bed, a new school uniform. He's elated. As William starts his first school day, he meets his buddy, Gilbert. There's a wave of excitement in the village because of a pro-democracy rally. At school, the head teacher tells the students that after settling their fees, they'll receive library cards. This could be their ticket to university and the broader world outside. Rain suddenly pours, and students run for shelter. Inside, Mike Kachagunda becomes William's class teacher. Meanwhile, William's sister, Annie, is searching for a job but with no luck. After class, William approaches Mr. Kachagunda, handing him a letter from Annie. However, the teacher informs William that the school fees are incomplete, and without full payment, William can't continue attending. Feeling downcast, William distracts himself with Gilbert's company. At home, even with the relentless rain, family duties continue. Studying becomes hard for William due to a lack of kerosene for lighting. Soon, William's test results are out, and he scores 62 points. To divert their minds, the boys head to a junkyard. William stumbles upon an old pump. During a village gathering, Chief Wim, Gilbert's dad, tells everyone about a tobacco company's proposal. They are offering $2,000 in cash for each ton of timber, a considerable sum for the villagers. The chief spoke about the Malawi floods. The villagers didn't have ways to defend against the floods and depended on trees for protection. Jeremiah had a different plan. Although he needed money, he chose to make a deal with the county, allowing the tobacco company to use the forest. This decision had the backing of many, even if the chief disagreed. Jeremiah's uncle, Triwell, tried convincing him to back out, but Jeremiah was firm. During this time, William spent his free moments on his favorite hobby. One day, he noticed machines working and found his uncle, along with others, chopping trees. Meanwhile, William and his buddy Gilbert hung out with local teens. Not everyone was pleased with their presence. When their group's radio malfunctioned, William managed to fix it with some spare parts. William's repair of the radio earned him some respect among the teens. However, on their way home, the boys spotted William's sister getting close to Mr. Kachaganda. William urged Gilbert to keep quiet, but the next day, Gilbert felt it was necessary to inform the family. They were worried about Mr. Kachaganda's intentions, suspecting he might have had a role in helping Annie, William's sister, with her school certificate. Gilbert even proposed sabotaging Kachaganda's bike as payback, but William declined, although he was curious about the bike's light. That evening, Triwell was assessing their funds. Agnes, his wife, was insistent that William should continue his education for a better future. However, Triwell was worried about their finances, especially when the school had announced the names of students who had paid. Those who hadn't would need to leave until they settled their dues. Feeling trapped by their circumstances, Triwell sought advice from Daniel, an old friend who worked for the tobacco company. He pitched an idea of using his savings to buy and preserve some trees. But Daniel was skeptical and mentioned that the company might not be on board. Daniel hinted that Triwell's late brother might have had reasons for not leaving land to Triwell, fearing he'd be too kind-hearted and risk it all. Seeing the plight of Triwell's family, Daniel advised him to let go of his tree-saving dream. When the rainy season hits, all the crops might be gone. This means Malawi could face a harsh famine. Triwell urges Chief One to tell the president about the serious issues here when he visits. They shouldn't keep quiet. Annie's mother recalls that there was a famine 20 years ago. Annie is worried because there's no money for her university tuition. However, Agnes assures her that she will go to university. William and Gilbert are always at the junkyard, looking for old batteries to fix. One day at school, William subtly warns Mr. Kachagunda he knows about his relationship with Annie. If this gets out, it would be a massive scandal. Feeling pressured, Kachagunda speaks to Mrs. Sicelo to allow William access to the library. But it's their little secret. He aims to make a torch similar to the one on Kachagunda's bike. He's eager to tap into natural energy for the community. The president of Malawi visits, and everyone welcomes him enthusiastically. Chief One bravely speaks about the food crisis, saying the country needs a government that genuinely cares. This doesn't sit well with the president. Chief One is taken away by security. When Gilbert tries to see his dad, he's denied. Amid the chaos, shots ring out. Chief One is injured. Taking him to the hospital is risky. Trywell believes they could be in danger again. They need to save whatever crops they have, but it might last only 5 months. Agnes fears they won't have enough food for the whole year. Word gets out that the government is denying the food crisis. People are furious and start protesting. Against his wife's advice, Trywell joins in. Annie knows she needs to look out for herself. Meanwhile, William, ever the curious one, is in the library. He's trying to build a wind turbine but requires Kachagunda's assistance. At the same time, Kachagunda proposes that Annie run away and marry him. She's hesitant, fearing it would shame her family. Still, he insists it might be their only way out since teachers aren't getting paid. One day, the school's head discovers William is attending school without permission. As a result, he's kicked out and banned from all schools in the area. Mrs. Sicelo spoke highly of William, who picked studying over fieldwork. Soon, news spread that grain would be sold in the village. This made people hopeful, thinking the government still cared. Agnes handed money to her son, William, instructing him to buy as much grain as possible. When protesters saw government trucks filled with grain, they felt a protest wasn't necessary. Meanwhile, AG had a hunch that Annie was secretly seeing someone and wanted to avoid any family shame. Suddenly, a thief entered their home, taking all their food supplies, leaving Agnes in tears. Large crowds gathered to buy grain, with soldiers ensuring order. But when it became clear there wasn't enough grain for everyone, anger erupted, and people began throwing stones at the storage building. Luckily, William had secured some grain beforehand. After the chaos, Agnes was upset with her husband, thinking if he was home, they might not have been robbed. The soldiers later instructed those with grain to prepare to leave the scene. In the midst of this, William sneakily left through an opening in a wall to stay hidden. Back home, Trywell assessed their money. They'd have to ration, eating only once a day to last the year. Annie protested against this lifestyle. Her mom, Agnes, scolded her but then consoled her, promising they wouldn't go hungry. With limited options, Trywell continued farming on parched land. The family's hope waned, knowing without rain, their efforts might be in vain. That night, William told Annie he knew about her and Kachagunda. He had a plan to repair a pump to irrigate the fields, but he needed parts from Kachagunda. Annie, fearing her secret might be revealed, decided to elope with Kachagunda the next day, leaving a note behind. The worried family sought the school principal's help in finding Annie. He agreed to assist but wasn't certain. Moreover, he shared that the school might close due to a shortage of teachers. William requested him to let him access the library. William kept dreaming about creating a machine to convert wind to power. Despite doubts, his local friends decided to back him up. Eventually, William made it happen. A radio started working on wind power. This success made them all think bigger. They aimed for a large windmill to bring water to every field. While the chief was ill, Trywell, under the sun's heat, was shown William's creation. William shared his grand idea of the big wind turbine, which could solve their drought issues. Yet, he needed parts from Trywell's bike. But Trywell didn't approve, thinking his son should focus on traditional tasks instead. He even told William to stop visiting the library and help on the fields instead. With no sign of rain, the drought seemed to be there for the long haul. William then found out his friends were thinking of heading north for work. He managed to persuade them to stay and assist with the wind turbine project. They approached Trywell together for the bicycle parts, but Trywell remained firm in his stance. The friends suggested William should join them in the north, but his family was his priority. Tragedy struck when William's dog passed away from starvation, leaving him heartbroken. Trywell, while caring for the ailing chief, discussed the bike incident with Agnes, his wife. She felt he had made a mistake by not supporting their son. She was frustrated, feeling Trywell wasn't looking out for their family's best interests. As William mourned his pet, Trywell shared thoughts of maybe farming tobacco, as crops seemed unlikely. He still viewed William's windmill dream as fanciful. However, William pleaded with him to have faith and allow him to prove the turbine's worth. Eventually, Trywell agreed, seeing their dire need for water. Work on the wind turbine started with all hands on deck, including Gilbert's help. Once completed, the windmill was a success. It could irrigate the fields all day, bringing joy and gratitude from the villagers. They started planting seeds, and soon crops began to grow. The sad news came when the chief died, and local traditions were followed for his funeral. Gilbert was now in line to become the new chief. Even with new opportunities arising, William desired to stay, at least until his sister came back. But Trywell encouraged him to pursue education and a brighter future. William is seen atop the windmill, gazing at his beloved village from a high vantage point.